Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn. At least it's how I'm known here on the program and really nowhere else at this point, 11 years in. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. I happen to be wearing the shirt today. You just heard Revel 9's All I Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014. It will be until the very end of days. And I am joined today by my guest, Chelsey Stallings, who just released a single, Give Him the Reins, and has more music coming in 2025. But first, Chelsey, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Welcome to the interview set. And this should be a fun one based on the conversation before the show. So let's get right to it and let's have you answer the three standard questions to kick us off. Those three questions are, who are you? What are your passions, and why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Man, who are you? What a question. I think so often I'm tempted to say things like, well, I'm Chelsey Stallings. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. But a lot of that is who I am to other people, right? Which I am all those things, and I'm proud to be all those things. But who am I? Man, I'm a little gritty. I'm a little rough around the edges, but I also like to think I'm kind most of the time. Not all the time. But I mean, who am I? How long's your show?
As long as we need it to be. As long as that doesn't run out of storage.
Perfect. So, I mean, yeah, that's the basis behind who I am is I grew up in Utah. I grew up in a horse community. And so I showed horses for a long time. I'm a horse trainer now. I continue to train horses. I've got 2 of my own horses. And I am a mom. I have 3 kids. And I have been married for many years. And singing and music and songwriting has been a part of most of my life. So it's something that I just kept coming back to over and over and over again. So yeah,
and
that's
why on earth would you want to come on this show of all the shows?
Oh, man. So I was actually, my friend Jess with Native Manor, she connected us and she was just like, oh, you would love to go on the show. So I was really excited to come on your show, especially too, because of the authentic conversation.
Yeah.
Because that is, we were talking about this earlier. I cannot do small talk.
Me neither.
I'm like deep dive. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah. I'm completely incapable of small talk.
Yeah. Same. So if someone comes up, same. If someone comes up, hey, it's nice weather. I'm like, I am out of here. So
you know what? There's nice weather over here. I'm going to go over here.
I'm going to go over here now. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But Jess is a good egg.
She's wonderful.
And thanks to Jess for setting this up as well as Brittany Bishop's episode.
Yeah.
Just had Brittany on as well. So, well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so before we start talking about everything musical and everything life and all that stuff, let's go back to the beginning, as far back as you want to go. The people, places, experiences, of course, artists that influence your creative journey, that really put you on this path toward creativity, toward making music and discovering these parts within yourself.
Okay, so my first concert ever, I was 11, was Garth Brooks.
Okay.
And I didn't even know what I was in for. I had no idea what I was going to experience. I just knew that I had heard this guy on the radio. My dad was a fan, and we were going to go to the Garth Brooks concert. And I remember sitting there, and when he came out and sang The Dance, I cried as an 11-year-old kid. And I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to create songs and do that and be able to deliver them that makes people feel something like that. And so I kind of just started dabbling with not even songwriting at that time, just singing and, local talent shows and singing in church and that kind of a thing. And I didn't even really know that being a songwriter was a thing until I was in my 20s. And, well, no, that's wrong. Because I wrote my first song when I was like 19, 20. And that's kind of when I learned like, oh, you can actually do this. Right. And so that's when I started creating music and releasing songs and doing all that kind of a thing. So Garth Brooks was the first influence. Another influence for me is Martina McBride. And people say too, they can hear Martina McBride in my style, in my voice, in what I do. I loved the storytelling with her songs, and the depth. She would just go there. She would say things like cancer in a song when no one else would say that.
Yeah, especially in the 90s. Yeah.
Yes, and so I loved that about the songs that she was putting out. So anyway, those were the two that kind of bridged me into songwriting and into the country music world.
Was there a moment where you kind of flipped a switch and took it beyond just the songwriting to, oh, I want to record what I'm writing. I want to go out and perform it. I want to go on tour. Like, was there a moment where you decided like, this is something that I'm going to do and it's going to be a major part of my life going forward?
I feel like my career has been so complicated. So originally, I began with Christian-based music. Because I felt like, well, you know, I'm a believer. That's what I should do is put Christian music out into the world. So that's what I started doing. And I think my dreams were very small at that point because I wasn't sure if I was capable of more. And so I thought, well, maybe locally I could be someone or something that could put out Christian music. And I ended up, I mean, this was years later. I started writing, and years later, I was one of the most requested Christian artists on a local radio station, and was able to get my songs on this station. And I thought like, oh man, I've made it. Like, this is it for me. And, you know, that big moment. And then New Year's Eve, I'll never forget it. My husband and I drove to a New Year's party. And we heard my song on the radio, and we were like kind of celebrating, and we went to the New Year's party and went and got back in the car, and it was after midnight, and turned on the radio and it was static. There was nothing. And I remember reaching out to the CEO and like, hey, what happened? And they went bankrupt and went off the air overnight.
Oh, wow.
And for me, that was like a knife in the heart. I thought I had made it. I thought this was my big break. And then I took a step back for a couple years and started writing more with country music, going kind of back to what I originally loved, which was country music.
Right.
And I mean, you'll find that God weaves a lot into my songs, but that's what I love so much about country music too, is we can talk about those things. You can talk about faith, you can talk about struggles, you can talk about love, you can talk about all the things. And it's still just, you know, it's good. It's country. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of my journey, and then started jumping into country music. Did that for a few years, and then kind of bought into the lie of that I was too old and that I was too much a mom to be successful. And decided that instead of pursuing artistry, I was going to take a step back and just be a songwriter and write for other people.
Right.
And it wasn't until just the last couple of years that I decided that I don't believe in limiting beliefs. And I had bought those limiting beliefs for so long, and I wasn't going to do that anymore.
I love it.
So,
yeah. I think we all have those stories that we've either been told or we tell ourselves, you know, that place these limitations upon us.
For sure.
They're self-imposed a lot of the time, of course, where it's, you know, we had an experience, we heard somebody say, you'll never do this, you'll never do that, and we internalize that, and it becomes part of this narrative that we repeat over to ourselves. Not that I'm calling myself out here on the show or anything. What has helped you get past some of those stories? Or better yet, is it still a process for you?
It's still a process for me, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, I've had people that I'm very, very, very close to express that they didn't feel like I had what it takes. And just people in the industry as a whole, there's kind of this thought with, especially with women, as you get older, that maybe you're not as desirable in the industry, which I think is completely wrong. I don't believe that at all. I think that it's all about connection. It's all about connecting with people.
Yes.
And if I am putting something out there into the world that connects with somebody, that's all that matters. And so it is still a process for me, but I think I finally kind of turned that corner into not believing other people's limiting mindset.
What do you feel it is about you that connects, that resonates with your audience, with people? potential collaborators?
Honesty.
Mhm.
Honesty is one of my core values. I have a hard time not being honest. Even when I'm writing a song for somebody else, I have to take a step back and go, okay, that's cool, but is that honest?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid to go there
Mhm.
with songs. I'm not afraid to say the hard thing or say the thing that maybe someone else would shy away from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to scare a lot of people. But I also think that it's my superpower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's going to scare a lot of people, but it's going to attract the right ones.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I want. At the end of the day is you want to attract the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that we all have difficult things that we've gone through in our lives and hard situations. And we've all gone through struggles that nobody else has seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to like take a step forward and say, hey, I've been there too. It kind of helps us feel less alone. It's like we heal by hurting together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not all of my songs are like full of pain and all that kind of a thing either. It's just honest. It's just honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And I think there's also something to be said for realizing that you're not going to be for everybody too.
For sure.
Because none of us are, if it's for everybody, it's for nobody, right?
Totally.
Like
100%.
And I think too, especially like maybe younger artists who are just starting out, they're trying to fit a mold. They're trying to do what the industry's telling them to do. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. Your image needs to be this, like, and that's to me a recipe for burnout, getting lost in the shuffle, getting frustrated, giving up and going home in a lot of cases, right? Where, you're so focused on the external locus of control that you've forgotten what's in here.
Yeah.
You've forgotten
100%.
who you are and why you do this in the first place.
Yep.
So what is that why for you?
Oh my goodness.
Is this another one of those how long is the show answers?
Yep. Yep. It's one of those. Well, so I have actually given up music 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I had a kid, because the mom guilt would set in. And it was this, man, am I being so selfish by chasing this for myself? And I always got pulled back in. And for me, the why is when I play a show and someone comes up to me and gives me a hug or tears in their eyes or are so excited about a song that I created and just sang, that is the why for me. That is everything.
Yeah.
That like fuels my fire more than anything else. But also I want my kids to grow up watching their mom taking chances and chasing dreams and not being afraid of what everybody else says we should do.
Right. Right. And there's so much of that, of course, in society and, growing up in public school, you know, it's like you just kind of fit in this box, right? And like, don't step outside the box. People are going to think you're weird. They're going to think you're crazy. Like,
be weird.
Yeah.
Weird is the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We actually have a sign, or not a sign, a piece of artwork on our wall that says, weird is a side effect of awesome. And I'm all for that. But
I tell my eldest niece every time I come back to Nashville, before I leave, I tell her to stay weird.
Yes.
She's 15 and she's always been her own person, and I'm the relative that moved out of state and, took a chance on building a thing, right? So like we get along really well. We're super close. She's a little sister I never had. And I remember one time, this is after I moved to Nashville, but not too long after. She was probably 10 at the time. We were in the car and we were talking about what normal is. And she says, at 10, normal isn't normal. And it's not, when you really think about like what we consider to be normal in like modern American society, like it's really just flying in the face of our human nature and our intuition and like, our free will of expression a lot of the time, right?
That's so wise for a 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
To say that. I mean, I sit and think of like, would my 11-year-old say that? I don't know. That's so wise. But I agree.
Yeah. Like, Amber's always been sharp like that. She, when I was getting ready to move here, actually, it was her 9th birthday. We're going to the pumpkin patch. My sister's having an appendectomy. I know my sister's in the ER. I don't know why. Trying not to ruin the kid's birthday. So I'm just driving. I knew I was getting ready to move to Nashville, but I was first going to come visit, make sure I liked it. So I go just to kind of get my mind off of what's happening right there in that moment. Hey, Amber, guess where I'm going to go visit? Chicago, which I'm a Cubs fan, so that was a good guess. I'm like, no, I'm going to go visit Nashville. And immediately 9 years old that day, sniffs it out. Are you going to go work there? I'm like, maybe. In that moment, I'm remembering moving out of my parents' house when she was like 4 or 5, and her laying face down on the porch swing crying. I'm like, now I'm gonna like ruin this kid's life. And I'm just like, it's possible. I want to go see if I like it, but I'm thinking about it. She's like, I'd be happy for you. I'm like, huh? She's like, you could do so much more music stuff there than Pennsylvania. I'm like, you're 9. What?
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. But I did. I'm like, high five, kid. I'm like, she was the one person I was afraid to tell. And I told her that. And she was like, oh no, I'd be happy. You should go do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So sometimes the kids, they have the wisdom that we don't in those moments.
Oh, too. I think they have way more wisdom than we do because they live free. They live without that, inhibition, and they just go. And then somewhere along the way, the insecurities hit and all the other things hit. And I mean, I watch my 8-year-old, and she's just as free as can be. And then there's, somewhere between that 8 and 11, there's a switch that flips, and all of a sudden they're insecure, and they're starting to believe these things that the world puts on them. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Right around the start of middle school.
Yes.
Right around the start of middle school. That is such a defining moment because they're either at that point going to stay weird or try to fit inside of a box. Yeah. And if they try to fit inside of a box, for most people, it's very hard to ever get out of it.
Totally.
Very hard to ever get out of it. So
yes.
You mentioned faith before. And of course, starting as a Christian artist, being able to talk about faith in your music as a country artist now. How has faith driven you forward? Or how has it informed your journey here?
I think faith has informed a huge part of my journey. I think it's really hard when we're in the middle of struggles, when we're in the middle of trials, when we're in the middle of chasing dreams, to see God's hand in it. I think it's easier when we look back on it. And there were so many times when I hit what I thought were dead ends, when really they were just detours. And I would get so frustrated and like, God, why'd you forget about me? I'm trying so hard, and I'm putting so much faith into this, and I'm taking the steps, and I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm praying, and I'm reading my scriptures, and I'm, just trying to be a good human. Like, why'd you forget about me? But now looking back on it, I see the protection. And just steering me kind of a different direction. I mean, if that radio station would have never gone bankrupt and gone off the air, I probably would have settled for that. And is that what my heart really wanted? No. But I think I'm really stubborn. I'm really stubborn. I come by it rightly. I was raised by a cowboy. I'm a cowgirl. Like, I train horses. I am stubborn. And I think sometimes for me, God doesn't have to nudge me. He has to shove me.
Yeah.
And, but faith has been a huge part of that for me. And just, I mean, simply in building my own faith.
Yeah.
So
So would you say sometimes you found that you just have to give him the reins?
Oh my God.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Greatest segue in the history of the show right there.
There we go.
I was waiting for that for like 2 minutes.
That was smooth.
Look at that.
Yeah. Totally. And that's actually 100% what that song is about. So Give Him the Reins is a true story. Like front to back, true story. I wrote it with my good friend, Kenzie Coppin. And I told her this story. So when I was 13 years old, my first job was guiding trail rides in the mountains of Utah at 13 years old. And we're being paid like $5 a day. And we thought like, oh, we're like, we're making it, right? But I would guide these trail rides. Well, there was one night, my friend and I, we decided that we were going to take a trail that we had never been on before, and it was getting dark. And we thought, oh, well, what can happen? It's going to be great. We're guiding all these people. And about 15 minutes into it, we lost the trail, and we did not know where to go. And we're kind of acting like we know what's going on. We have no idea. We have no idea where we are. We're completely lost. And we were kind of starting to panic. And then I remembered my dad taught me when I was really little. I was probably 8, 9 years old. He just in passing mentioned this, but it stuck with me. And it was that horses have a really good sense of direction. And so I just kind of like nonchalantly put the reins down on my horse's neck and let him start to take us wherever he wanted to. And he just like slowly turned us around and got us back on the trail. And within like 15, 20 minutes, we were back on a trail we were recognized again. And no one knew. And for me, that was a huge lesson in trusting my horses. But a lesson in life too, because again, stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't even say recovering stubborn person, because I am just stubborn through and through. But I don't want to let go of the reins. I don't want to give God the reins. I want to be like, no, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. I'm not sure if I trust that you're going to take them and guide it in the best possible way. Like, I don't want to give you the reins. But that is what that song is about, is essentially like giving God the reins.
Mm-hmm. I'm also somebody who struggles to give up control.
It's tough.
Yeah, but sometimes it's best left outside of ourselves, right?
Totally.
Like, that's something I think we've all had to learn is like, we start this journey, whatever part of it, whatever, lane we're in, or lanes, right? Thinking it's going to go a certain way. Thinking like this needs to happen, then this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and then this needs to happen, and this will happen.
Yep.
And it almost never goes according to plan.
No.
Almost never. Like there are always lessons you learn. There are always setbacks, things that you go through, new ideas that come and take you this way or that way. And there's something to be said for just letting go of the control of what you expect this to be. Because ultimately, that gives it the chance to become something even greater.
Totally.
And something that has come from your own experience. That is something that has come from just the beauty of the unpredictability of life, right? So how have you seen the unexpected show up for you? And how has that made your journey different, if not better, than you expected it to turn out?
Oh, man. I have so many stories with that. I feel like you said, everything in life has been unexpected. And I could write a book about the unexpected twists and turns that my journey has taken. But they've always turned out for the better, even if in the moment they really suck. Just one example, when we moved to Tennessee, we drove 1,700 miles across the country with 3 kids and 2 horses, and packed everything we could in a little U-Haul and got rid of the rest. We never thought we would move, and we were under contract with a house out in Murfreesboro, and we pulled up to this house, and cute house, but needed to be like completely gutted. And went to close on the house and found out that it had a sizable tax lien against the property, and we couldn't close on it.
Wow.
And I was heartbroken. I wanted to stay there. The property was beautiful. Cute little house, but the property itself, I was like, this is like a horse trainer's dream.
Yeah.
And loved the location, everything. My kids got into school and they were doing really good. They told us that we could rent the property, or we could stay the property rent-free until they were able to get the tax lien waived. And then 2 months later came back and said, no, that's actually not going to work for us. You need to pay rent. And we said, no, that's not what we signed up for. This is not our problem. This is your problem. And they said, well, then we need you out in 2 weeks. And we had 2 weeks to find a house that had horse property.
Wow.
And we found 2 houses that could work. And one was in a flood zone. And the other one is the one that we're in now. And we somehow pulled it together and moved everything again across the city, and took our horses over and figured it out and made it work. And I always say that this is a major God thing. I was not looking at that house when we originally were looking at houses, because it was outside of my little circle radius. Again, God had to shove me. I had to be shoved. But that night when we moved in, this couple showed up to our house and introduced themselves, and they lived just a mile down the road. And the girl, the woman, her name is Sarah, she has become my best friend and is the best friend I have ever had in my life.
Wow.
Like that friend that I prayed for. And still, she's like my sister. We do everything together now. I never would have met her if we wouldn't have been shoved out of that situation.
Wow.
So, you talk about like a roadblock turning into a detour. That was, a big one for me. Career-wise, I feel like my whole career has been detours.
Same.
So, and I don't know if it's because God's like, I have something a little bigger or a little different or a little whatever. At this point, I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm riding the wave. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to control it. I know I'm not in control. Let's just let's go where this thing's going. So,
And so let's take that ride into 2025 then. And let's talk about what's coming up. So new music coming pretty much at the top of the year.
yeah, so I have a new song that is probably one of my favorites. And here's the thing, Nashville, we try to be clever. I love clever songwriting. A lot of my songs are clever, like the title, you have a twist to it or something that's unexpected. I'm all about that. This song is not clever at all. It is simply my mess, the human that I am, on a page. And it's called I'm a Mess. Amazing. So clever. But when I was in April of this year, I was out in Twin Falls, Idaho. And there is an organization that I do stuff with out in Twin Falls called the J Foundation. And the J Foundation is a suicide awareness and prevention foundation. And they are amazing. Love the J Foundation. I do a lot of stuff with them. But they did a auction, and they had a whole bunch of us from Nashville come out and basically turn downtown Twin Falls into Nashville for the weekend. And they take you through the J Foundation, and you walk in and it looks like a Western wear store. And there's boots everywhere and it smells like leather. And then they take you in the back and they talk to you about Jay. And Jay was their friend who took his life when he was 26 or 27 years old. And then they take you into the Western wear store and they let you pick out a pair of boots. This is one of my pair of J boots. I have many pairs now. But your J boots, every time you put them on, they're supposed to remind you to check in with somebody that you love. It's called a boot check. And then you're supposed to check in with yourself too. And you're supposed to just have an honest conversation. And my thought is like, that's great. I love the concept, but it's really hard to have the honest conversation with people when it's people that we don't talk to on a daily basis and we don't just go there. And so I thought, I think the best way for that is for me to share my mess myself and be like, hey, like I'm a disaster. And here is my mess for you to like see, and maybe that will give you the courage to share. So I came home and wrote that song with my friend Daniel Andrews, and it is just that. It's just about my mess. So, and
it's a courageous thing to do too, because I think we're often told, even in this age of transparency that we are in now,
it's filtered still.
Right. There's still this filter that is encouraged a lot of the time. I mean, I can say this as a male entrepreneur, we're not allowed to show any vulnerability whatsoever. People will think you're weak. People will think this.
So counterproductive because it's actually not. I think that it's the stronger thing to do would be to show the vulnerability.
I agree. Yeah. And that's what's going to help people connect most meaningfully with you.
For sure.
Not just with your music or your platform, but with you as a human being. Because ultimately, like, they might like a song, they might like a thing you put out, a piece of content, they might like a thing you did. You are what's going to keep them there. The connection that they feel. And so the only way to do that, not just the best way to do that, but the only way to do that is to show up as yourself. And I think 100%. It's difficult to do that in an age where that's discouraged still in some circles, but it makes it all the more courageous, and it makes it stand out even more when somebody's willing to do that and willing to fearlessly be themselves and, take that conventional wisdom and be like, you know what? Not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think even in, traditional Christianity, sometimes it's hard to show the dirty laundry. And because it's like, well, we have Jesus, that means that we're good. And it's true. We have Jesus. So, we're covered in that, but that doesn't mean that we don't struggle. That's just part of being human.
Right.
And so I think it's actually counterproductive to not show that you need Jesus, that there's a lot of imperfection there. And that there's a mess.
Yeah.
So to speak.
And we all have one. We all have one that we're dealing with. So good on you to bring that conversation to life with the new music.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just doing the best I can with what I got, which isn't much, but we're working on it. So.
And we've got plenty more to come through 2025 as well.
Yeah. I'm going to be releasing a lot of songs in 2025. And then I go on like weekend tours pretty often. I've got quite a few things coming up for 2025, and who knows what it holds, who knows what's going to happen. I'm hopeful for the future, and just trying to stay positive about it all, and just keep my mind and my heart open to all of it.
And that's a beautiful part about this. Like, you go out and you do a thing, could be here in town, could be somewhere else, and like, you never know what's going to come of that, right?
It's so true. And man, like, I have met so many wonderful people in this town that I never would have met if I didn't take the leap to move here. And they're just, I mean, so many people in this music community and just cool opportunities too that I remember I used to come into town before I lived here and sit in the back corner of the listening room by myself and cry because I was like, I'm never going to be able to play that stage. And that would be so amazing. And now I've played the listening room like 20 times, you know? So, and I remember the first time I got up on that stage, I was like, I cannot believe I'm here. I cannot believe that I sat in that corner and cried and now I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know where the journey's going to take you, but you have to get on the journey and you have to just start the journey in order to find that out.
Totally. Yep.
One of 60 plus lessons in my upcoming book, 60 plus lessons from the creative journey, out February 25th on Amazon. Sorry.
I love that. That's great. No, bring it on. Bring it on.
It is coming out. I got to start selling some books. Got to start moving some units.
I love it.
Chelsey Stallings joining us here on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We're going to ask you a few questions here to wrap us up. But before we do that, I want to ask you a very important question. Over the course of your journey, the twists and turns, the messes, everything in between, if there's one lesson that you could go back and impart upon your younger self or somebody in your shoes starting out, what's the most important lesson you would tell them?
Don't buy into other people's limiting beliefs, because someone who is working harder than you or a step ahead of you in the journey would never bring you down. That's what I would tell my younger self and my daughters too. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's what I would say is just stay true to who you are, stay true to your heart. And don't let other people's limiting beliefs bring you down, because I've wasted a lot of time.
Amen.
Letting that get into my head.
Amen.
So.
Amen. Where can we learn more about you online?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am at Chelsey Stallings, and it's Chelsey with a Y, so Chelsey Stallings. On TikTok, I'm Horse Singer Chelsey. Because my TikTok kind of blew up because I would sing to my horses and they would react. And, you know, I became the horse singer on TikTok. There's other things on there now too, but that just kind of stuck and has stayed a little nostalgic. And then, YouTube, same thing. Chelsey Stallings. All the other things, just Chelsey Stallings. You can Google it and find me. I'm on there. So. Anything
you want to leave the people with? Any shout outs? Anything?
Oh man! Well, shout out Jess Antoinette, for setting this up, and shout out to Quinn Spinn too. This is great. This has been really, really fun. And gosh, I mean, again, how long do you have that I can? I'm a big believer in it takes a team, and your team isn't just the people who are supporting you. You also have to support your people, and so I have a great team of people that I get to support as well. But yeah, just, I mean, shout out to all my people, and you know who you are. It's been a ride, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
I'm excited for you.
So thank you.
This has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on the socials at Quinn Spinn Official on Instagram and Threads, The Quinn Spinn on Facebook and TikTok. Underground Music Collective is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMCNashville.com will take you everywhere you need to go. Also, UMC Nashville on most of the socials except Facebook. It's UMC Worldwide. At Nash Live shows, nothing coming up the rest of 2024, but 2025 is looking bright. We're making our plans. Stay tuned. Our immersive live music experiences will be returning in the new year. And of course, follow the UMC Academy at UMC Academy on Instagram. And if you haven't yet, sign up for Brand Camp. That starts January 6th. It's virtual. You can do it from anywhere. 6 weeks, one-on-one coaching, group courses, and conversations as well. And you get to tap into our growing community of artistpreneurs. Revel 9's All It Become. Going to take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on the way out.